Welcome to the Imperial Truth. I'm your host, Eric, and today we're going to talk about the Dark Mechanicum and the aspects of this side of the army list for the Mechanicum Taghmata for Horus Heresy Third Edition. So we're going to get into something we haven't delved into at all yet. And this comes at the request of one of you all. So we're gonna do this and try and get into this. I am sort of in a little bit of a holding pattern at the moment with videos. Not that I don't have topics that I can do, but I am currently finishing the last of the Carcharodon's books for the second time on that book and taking notes. I think I have like 6 or 8 pages of notes from all of the books right now. We'll put together the Carcharodon video for the future. And then, of course, we have the new Scutari models coming out with the new book. And so I'll have probably 3 videos to do when that comes out, but that's a little bit over a week away from when I'm recording this video. So we're going to do this today and have some fun with it, and I'll do my best to represent this. But we'll start with a little bit of lore. So if you're not familiar, um, in the Horus Heresy novel series, in the sort of storyline of the series, we've mostly tracked sort of the fall of the Astartes, the Adeptus Astartes, and the Primarchs that are associated with them. But sort of in the first 4 books or so, which if you're gonna, we should do a video on just the books to read. But if you're going to read one of the Horus Heresy books or a series of the Horus Heresy books, the first 4 are really where to start. And in that story, Horus, for whom the Horus Heresy is named, has fallen to chaos, has already become corrupted at this point in the story. I think this is in I want to say the 3rd book of the series, so False Gods, I think, and or maybe Galaxy in Flames, but it's the 3rd book, and they encounter this human civilization called the Technocracy, and the Technocracy is, for all intents and purposes, they are very excited to meet with the expeditionary fleet, be reunited with humanity. They are not antagonistic towards the Crusade fleet at all. However, Horus figures out that they have what's called STC, or Standard Template Construct technology, which is extremely rare and extremely highly valued for the Mechanicum. And essentially an STC is, it depends on where it's represented. It's either sort of a repository of all of the sort of technology for humanity, sort of all of the templates for that. And in some cases, they're presented as sort of an AI analogous thing, or maybe straight up AI, where they can actually develop new patterns. And so for the Mechanicum, that is, at this point, is very much against innovation. It is all about reclaiming old technologies, reclaiming essentially a database of old technology that you can then use to innovate into the future that might have new technology, essentially, is super important. And so Horus goes to war with the Technocracy. He seizes the STCs. I think there are 2 of them, which, even a fragment of one is considered like crazy. I think this is where we get our Mark. Somebody can correct me in the comments. I think it's the Mark IV armor comes out of this. I'm pretty sure it's the Mark IV armor comes out of this. So up to this point, we only have up to Mark III armor. And he does this in exchange for the allegiance of the Mechanicum under the Fabricator General Kelbor Howl. And then fast forward to the Mechanicum book, which is a pretty good book, especially if you're into the Mechanicum side of things, but not especially impactful for the overall story. And in the Mechanicum book, the Regulus, who is sort of the ambassador to Horus's fleet, and Archmagos, he comes back to Mars, and with Kelbor Howl unlocks this thing called the Gates of Moravec, the Vaults of Moravec. Sorry, the Vaults of Moravec are essentially the repository of all of the Dark Mechanicum technology, all of the sort of demon-infused mixtures of the warp and humanity's sort of worst nightmares, and that unleashes and infects. Regulus also infects Kelbor and the other Mechanicum with these scrap code infections. So as opposed to like pure code, which is logical and information based, scrap code is random and warped and contains dark concepts and corrupts everything that it touches. So kind of releasing them into this warp tainted things. And this presents some really interesting concepts for the Mechanicum at large, because as we mentioned in our Vashtor video, there are sort of three omniscias, not to get into too much heresy, or three sources of knowledge in the Mechanicum. There's the Emperor, who has seeded sort of the omniscient mythology through history, and has definitely contributed significantly to sort of the technological advancement of humanity. So definitely one facet there. In the book Mechanicum, it's heavily implied, if not explicitly implied, that this thing called the Void Dragon, which is a shard of the Kytan god, is located currently on Mars. And that has been inspiring Martian adepts to build technology for centuries, if not millennium. And so that is also very important for this story. And then more recently, we are introduced to the character of Vashtor, who is this fifth chaos god, or is trying to become a fifth chaos god, and is sort of the architect of the Forge. Was birthed during the war in heaven, and sort of oversees sort of this side of things, which is this dark mech stuff. And one last kind of piece of lore that's kind of fun with this is that the Dark Mechanicum wear black robes rather than red robes, because in their mind, black represents the ignorance that they are clouded in, and until they like fully understand the nature of the warp and the nature of sort of that warp infused technology and sort of the craziness of the non-linear and non-logical mathematical progressions and things like that, they wear black to represent sort of their lack of knowledge. And if they would ever ascend to purity, they would wear white robes, which is kind of a fun aspect to this as well. But yeah, so that's sort of the gist of all of this and where we're coming at when we talk about the lore behind it. But yeah, let's get into some of the units and the rules that are here. And I haven't done any of this yet because honestly, I can't really wrap my head around it in terms of like the mechanics of how it plays. So if you have insights, please let me know. But we'll talk about it to the best of my knowledge and the best of my understanding with this stuff. So the first rule that we're going to talk about is this Heterodoxists, which is sort of the classification of this army list. Now, previously, I think in second edition, you substituted sort of your dark mech keywords for cybernet, like you would substitute like cybernetica for malagra, not malagra, for like a malefic or whatever the different subtypes were, and that's changed. So you get the heterodox trait, which is separate from like Archimandrite or cybernetica. It is just its own trait. In order to run a heterodox list or a traitor dark mechanicum force, you have to have the traitor keyword, and you have to have one model that is a heterodox model. Now, how you get that is you just basically say that you have it. There isn't some points that you pay or word that you substitute. You just are like, this is a heterodox person. When you choose the heterodox trait, you can also choose to be malefic subtype, which we'll define in a minute because that's going to come up over and over and over again. But you don't have to be malefic. It may be useful in some cases to be malefic, though, and you cannot be the Malagra trait. So the Malagra are basically the enforcers or the judges and the sort of assassin clade of the Mechanicum, who hunt down traitors and enforce the Mechanicum Creed and sort of that thing. Now, I find this kind of interesting because if you've read the novella Cybernetica, which is another kind of good Mechanicum Horus Heresy book, spoilers in this, but there is a Malagra character who is corrupted to chaos. So, I mean, I understand why the rule is here from a mechanical perspective, but it is worth noting that you could totally have like a Malefic model that's based on a Malagra, a model chassis, but just doesn't have the Malagra trait word. But yeah, so there's that. That's kind of our heterodox, and we'll come back to some of these ideas in a little bit. Your Malefic trait has basically 3 rules to it, and this rule applies to a lot of models in the game. It applies to demon models. It applies to possessed traitor models. I believe that there are Malefic units that can be in the militia army, if I remember right, having read through that. But you don't gain tactical statuses. Instead, you suffer D3 wounds that are AP2 damage 1 and no saves are allowed. So you just take D3 wounds, that's it. And that's, you take that instead of a status. Now, I genuinely don't know how I feel about this. D3 wounds seems like a lot in some cases. But we'll talk about it as we kind of move through. I think in most cases, it's not going to be a huge deal. You don't suffer negative modifiers at all, ever, to cool, to willpower, to leadership. That's huge. That's a big thing. Now, it does... I don't think like pinning 2 is a modifier to your cool stat. So you would not, Malefic do not suffer from things like fear, but they would still get as far as I know, they would still get like a pinning 2 weapon would still subtract 2 from the cool check. Just checking. Yeah, it says that it doesn't modify the characteristics. So there's that. And if you have Malefic, you can't join a unit that isn't Malefic. So you couldn't take a cybernetic heterodox Malefic Archmagos and put them in a unit of Castellax anymore, because the Castellax can't get the Malefic type. And I think that is sort of where maybe they missed it with this, and we'll talk about it at the end in terms of sort of how to implement these rules overall. But those are sort of our general rules for Malefic. With our heterodox, they have their own Cybertheurgic rites. They have 2 rites, and then they have a special Cybertheurgic status that only they can have. And we'll talk about that first, and then we'll talk about the 2 rites that they have. So the Cybertheurgic status they have is called Null. So previously we had Fortify, Guide, and Quicken, and now we have Null. Null is pretty simple. There's a lot of words, but it's pretty simple. It says that you immediately lose all of your Cybertheurgic statuses, you suffer Cybertheurgic feedback, and you can't gain statuses. Now, we'll come back and talk about that in a minute. But that's the basic idea of the Null status. You strip off any Cybertheurgic statuses that are there, and then you immediately suffer Cybertheurgic feedback. Just as a reminder, Cybertheurgic feedback is a roll for every model in the unit. And sorry, I'm gonna grab it real quick so I can make sure I'm right. It's an automatic. It automatically wounds you. And there's no AP characteristic. You can take your regular saves, but you can't take just making sure. You can't take damage mitigation saves, so no feel no pains, no invuln saves, no cover saves. You just get your regular save on here. Yes, armor saves may be made as normal. So that is an interesting kind of thing that you can do. So we have 2 Cybertheurgic rites that we can utilize. Etheric Amplification, it's range 6, difficulty 2. You have to target a Malefic unit. I spelled Malefic wrong here, sorry. So you have to target a Malefic unit, and they get Quicken, Fortify, or Guide. And this is worth pausing quickly to note that for this one, it's Malefic, not Cybernetic, not Automata, nothing like that. Okay. So this means that you could use etheric amplification on possessed. You could use etheric amplification on demon units. And yeah, suddenly etheric amplification seems like sort of a fun thing because now I can pop this ability on a unit of, I guess they're not called possessed. I'm sorry, I'm mixing 40k terms. The Galvorback. So you could put it on Galvorback, and giving Galvorback +1 initiative and +1 speed, or giving them +1 weapon skill, or giving them +1 strength and toughness, all seem pretty good. And there's, if you had enough tech priests that could do this, you could give them all of it, which seems really good, especially when you combine it with something like Biomancy, which gives you a bonus to your strength and toughness as well. So you could just really crank a unit up to 11 with this and just kind of laugh as they move through enemy units. You will suffer Cybertheurgic feedback during your next turn, but for the turn that you are doing your attacks, you're gonna really crush things out. So yeah, there is that. The other, and it's difficulty 2 is very reasonable. Range 6 is a little rough, but difficulty 2 is very reasonable. In addition, you could put out Scrap Code Infection. Scrap Code Infection is range 12, so a little bit better range. Difficulty 3, a little bit tougher to invoke. And this hits a unit that has a Cybertheurgic status already with the null status. Now, in most cases, you're not going to have Cybertheurgic statuses popping around because you're probably, if your group is anything like me, you're probably facing more Astartes players than anything else. But it is worth noting that this is really flavorful if you want to do like Mechanicum on Mechanicum fights and have sort of a campaign where you're playing against a loyalist Mechanicum player. In fact, I would encourage the loyalist Mechanicum player to play into Malagra because they also have some really fun things that they can do. And I think that would be a really engaging way to play. When we talk about collaborative play, sitting down with your friend who, may play loyalist Mechanicum, and you play Dark Mechanicum, and putting this in your units is pretty fun. It's probably not particularly useful if you're playing against Astartes or you're just doing like a pickup game. But let's walk through what happens. So you roll your dice, you pass you invoke your status, they get the null status. So you hit a unit of Castellax. With this, they get their Cybertheurgic status stripped away. This is obviously going to happen on your turn. And then they immediately suffer Cybertheurgic feedback. So they're going to take basically a wound for every model in the unit, and they get to make saves against them. And then on their turn, because of the timing of this, and I will just read this because it's important to understand. For the duration, the Cybertheurgic status granted by this Cybertheurgic Rite is automatically removed, and the target unit's controlling players' next status subphase. If the Cybertheurgic status is removed during the status's subphase rather than due to the effects of a null Cybertheurgic status, so you don't hit them with another null. Then the target unit suffers Cybertheurgic feedback in that status's subphase. So status subphase is when you are checking your statuses at the end of the turn, right? So that means that you hit them in their turn, they suffer you hit them in your turn, they suffer Cybertheurgic feedback. During their next turn, they can't put a Cybertheurgic status on that unit because it has the null status, and the null status says it can't gain any statuses. And then at the end of their turn, they lose the null status, suffer Cybertheurgic status again, and then it goes into your turn, and you can pop null on them again and basically lock down this unit and just hit them with scrap code causing damage every single turn. It is incredibly flavorful. My only complaint with this is that you should be able to target anything. It shouldn't happen on something with just a cybertheurgic status. I think it would be kind of fun to just be like, yeah, you're just going to suffer damage every single turn, as I continue to make your armor rebel against you, or like the machine spirit of your vehicle, break. And I would be fine with it. It targets a unit with a cybertheurgic status or an automata walker or vehicle. That would also be fine. But the fact that it's just a unit with cybertheurgic status really limits the application. But it is really fun. It's a really cool idea. And I'm not complaining at all that it's in the game. I think that this stuff is cool to have. And even if it's not particularly useful all the time, when it does come up, it's going to be a really neat experience for the players. And yeah, it's going to tell a story, which is pretty cool. All right, so we have a number of units that we can talk about for the sort of Dark Mechanicum, Malefic side of things. And it's worth noting that it is hard to get. I'm trying to check. It's hard to get some of these. So like the Decimator and Bloodslaughter, you can get multiples of if you really want. The other ones, it becomes more difficult, but you can ally in demons. And then there's a demon, the Infernal Architect, I think is the one, which is basically the Vastor subtype that allows you to bring more Decimators and stuff. So if you want to bring some of them in as allies, you can, because you're really not going to lose anything for doing that. So we'll go through sort of the stats and a little bit of the lore. So the Decimator is the Mechanicum's response to the Leviathan Dreadnought. So basically, when the Leviathan Dreadnought came out, the Mechanicum was really freaked out about this because it was made on Terra. It was designed by the Emperor, sort of made outside of the realm of the Mechanicum stuff. We talked about this a little bit when we talked about the Saturnine retcon information previously. And so the Mechanicum began to, keep in mind, this is the Mechanicum, not the Dark Mechanicum. They began to sort of develop the technology for the Decimator at this point. And it's an infusion of like Mechanicum stuff, some Dark Age of Technology stuff, and some alien technology. Not heretical at all. And then later, during the Horus Heresy, the Dark Mechanicum sort of figured out, hey, we can put demons in these, and they work really well if we put demons in them. And so that's what happened. And so if you're looking at this and you're like, wow, this looks a little bit like a Dreadnought or a little bit like a Leviathan Dreadnought specifically, that's because the technology is sort of being used for it. So these do have stats that are relatively similar to, they are an elite's choice, and they are 125 points each. So they sort of fit the same spot that like I'm going to forget the name of it, so I'm going to look it up real quick. It's one of our the Dominator, right? Going to look it up and be stupid while I'm doing this. But it fits the exact role of one of our usual Cybernetica guys, the Automata. So sorry, I can't flip pages. The Domitar battle manifold. So it's the same thing. So Domitars are 100 points for one. These guys are 125 points for one. The only catch is that you can't have multiple in a unit. So the main stats that are similar to Dreadnoughts are its move 7, its strength 7, its toughness 7, its wounds 5, it's 2+5+ save, but it is the automata keyword, and it has the Malefic subtype under there. This does have initiative 3, which is not great. It has attacks 4, which is fine. It's weapon skill, ballistic skill 4, which I think is in line with all of the Dreadnoughts now. And its leadership is 8. Its cool is 12 because it's an automata. Though cool won't usually play a role unless you put a guy in this unit, which I wouldn't. And it's only in 4. it's got implacable advance, so it can do the thing where it moves forward and shoots in the volley fire stage. Because of implacable advance, it doesn't have firestorm, so it doesn't shoot at full ballistic skill. It's still going to be snap firing. It has the Malefic subtype. It has the Cybernetica trait, so faction trait, and the Automata type. So it can get targeted by both the Malefic ability, which is the etheric amplification, I think is what it's called. Yeah, etheric amplification, or you can target it with the I don't know why my brain's like this today. Goodness gracious, guys. The overcharge reactors one. So you could hit it with either or both if you wanted to, and it will get the bonuses from them. Oh, you know what? I think we skipped a very important part. We did not talk about etheric amplification. Yeah, so etheric amplification targets a malefic unit. Yeah, gives them fortified guidance. We talked about it. Yeah, sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. My mind is all over the place today. The Decimator has 2 Decimator claws. Now, real quick, 2 Decimator claws. Usually, when we get 2 weapons that do something, we either get a rule that lets us fire more than one. So, for example, this does have 2 flamers, 2 heavy flamers that come in the claws, but it has firing protocols too, so it can shoot both. Or we'll combine weapons. So the Myrmidon's Secutors, they can take 2 phased plasma fusils, and those phased plasma fusils are rolled into one rule. So it's just one weapon shooting, but it's represented as 2 models. The problem with the 2 Decimator claws is, to my knowledge, you can't make attacks with multiple melee weapons. So if you have 2 Decimator claws, you are only getting to attack with one of them at any one point. And yeah, you're not getting it doesn't give you twin linked or anything like that anymore. So correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but that's a really weird wording for it, that there are 2 of them. But then if you look up the Decimator Claw rule, there's just one. So the Decimator Claw hits an initiative, usual attacks, which is going to be 4, but if you charge because you have impact attacks with this guy, it's going to be 5 attacks. It's at a strength, which is 7, which is not terrible, but not amazing. We'll talk about that in a minute. AP3 damage 2, fine. That's fine. I think that's pretty much in line with the normal clause for like a Contemptor Dreadnought. It has Breaching 5, which is always good, especially with AP3, and it has Armor Bane, which is a little weird because Strength 7 is not going to hurt the bigger vehicles. I guess if you charge a Rhino, you're going to tear it open probably. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's not amazing or terrible. This guy will go up and beat up Marines pretty easily with AP3 and 5 attacks. It has Vanguard 2, which is handy for sort of clearing objectives. Yeah, it's not terrible. You can swap out one of the hands for ranged weapons. So you can get a Butcher Cannon, which is 36-inch range, firepower 4, strength 8, AP 4, damage to breaching 6+ weapon, which seems pretty good to me. I will take a Butcher Cannon, thank you. Or you can get a Soul Burner Petard, which is 24-inch range, firepower 1. 3-inch blast though, strength 7, AP 4, damage 1, has shred 5+, poison 2+, stun 0. I mean, putting out status effects seems pretty good always. I really like that Butcher Cannon more, and it's only 5 points more than the Soul Burner Petard. So I'd probably take the Butcher Cannon over anything. And it can have one of the following for it. So it can't take the claw and it can't substitute both claws for like 2 Butcher Cannons, which would be kind of cool actually. So for this, I would say probably run the Decimator Claw and a Butcher Cannon, and then just not have one of your arms be wasted. Seems pretty good on this. Overall, this seems I don't play Dark Mechanicum. I'm just kind of like observing. It seems fine. 125 points is a bit for what it does, but it's pretty cool, and I like the idea of it. And Automata plus Malefic is kind of a weird combo because Automata can't get status effects anyway. But yeah, it's interesting. And there may be I'm maybe missing some magic combo with Traitor Astartes where Malefic can do other things with them too. So there may be combos that I'm definitely missing with this. In our second unit, we have the Blood Slaughter. So we can take these. This is a shock assault unit. So a heavy assault unit. You can take them in units of up to 3. They're 100 points each. So they're a little pricey. And they're essentially like super powerful Castellex. So we'll talk about sort of what they do here. But yeah, so you could take a unit of 3, you can take multiples in a unit, and they can move up the table. They have the Cybernetica trait, which means that you can run them with, so you could take like, because you can take 2 spots in your shock assault detachment. So you could take a unit of these, and you could take a unit of Castellex destroyers or Castellex destructor maniple, which seems pretty good. And anytime we can kind of double up on those things, I'm all for that. The big stats that they have that are useful are that they're move 9, their strength toughness 6, their wounds 4. So the strength toughness 6, wounds 4, and then weapon skill, ballistic skill 3, those are just Castellex stats exactly across the board. They have 5 attacks at initiative 4, which is a huge deal. So 5 attacks is monstrous for Horus Heresy Third Edition, and initiative 4 for anything in Mechanicum is a big deal. They also have impact attacks, which means they're going to get an extra attack when they charge. So they'll have 6 attacks hitting in initiative 4, which seems pretty good to me. As usual, they have like cool 12 because they can't take statuses. They're 3 up, 6 up save, and they don't have the rule that the Castellex have, that they have a 5 up save at range, but a 6 up save in melee. So 3 up, 6 up is fine. It's not amazing, but it's okay. Like what we talked about previously, they have the Automata, the Malefic combo, and I'm sorry that I keep spelling it wrong. In my mind, that's just the way it's spelled. So that Malefic combo is fine. Again, we can use the etheric amplification, or because they are technically automata, we can also use the overcharge reactors ability on them. So we can use either or. And I'm just going to check again just to make sure that is the way it works, because it is automata. Yeah, it is automata. Okay, that's fine. In addition, these guys have move through cover, which is a handy rule to have in some cases, especially with the fact that this guy is move 9. So they're going to move across the table pretty quickly. The big thing here is that these have slaughter bleeds. So unlike our previous one, it is all of the weapons are rolled into one stat. They are, all the modifiers that aren't here are just normal. So it's initiative and strength normal. And attacks normal, but it is AP 3, damage 1 with shred 5+, breaching 5+, and reaping blow 1. So if you throw this guy into a unit of tactical marines, for example, on a charge, it's going to get 7 attacks on the charge, and which is pretty good. The downside is that you are weapon skill 3, which is sad. But we can buff that, right? We can use either etheric amplification, or we can use overcharge reactors to buff these up and make these a little bit better. So you can increase the hurt that you can apply. Also, because this is an automata, and I kind of mentioned this with the Decimator, it's not as big a deal with the Decimator, but it could be a big deal here. Because this guy is an automata and you could take a unit of 3, you could in theory toss in like a Magos or an Archmagos into the unit for a little bit more hitting power. in that situation. And like I said, putting these guys into like a unit of, one or two of these into a unit of tactical Marines with, if you can buff them to weapon skill 4, seems pretty good. You can take, for 10 points, you can take an Impaler Harpoon, which is range 12, firepower 1, strength 6, AP 3, damage 2, with Phage. Phage 1? It doesn't have Phage 1. What did I write down wrong? We're going to look it up live on the air. Impaler Harpoon, Phage, it's not Phage 1, Phage Initiative. So that's interesting because you could, in theory, hit a Space Marine and kill it, and then the unit would be Initiative 3. Yeah, that's interesting. I have to think about that. I think that's pretty cool, actually. I think I would definitely put 1 in the unit, or maybe 2 in the unit, and hope that you get that Impaler Harpoon off, kill a model, and then drop them down to Initiative 3, hit first, and do all your damage first. That could be pretty good. But yeah, so there's that. I'm trying to think if there's any other rules in there I'm missing. Both this and the Decimator explode, but that very rarely comes up in meaningful ways, although it is pretty spectacular when it happens. Now we get into our 2 sort of Lords of War. And again, if I'm missing this, I'm not a Dark Mechanicum player. I'm putting this out there. These Lords of War aren't necessarily super heavies. So you could still hit this with Etheric Amplification. You could definitely hit it with Etheric Amplification. You could probably hit it with Overcharge Reactors because that says Vehicle, Walker, or Automata, but it doesn't, but it can't be super heavy. So again, if I'm missing something, let me know. And aside from this model just being absolutely freaking gorgeous, let's talk about it. So this is a Lord of War slot. It costs 600 points, which is a chunk of change. But it has pretty good stats all around. So it's movement 9, weapon skill, ballistic skill 4, strength 10, which is really good. It's going to come into play in a moment. It has toughness 8, which is fine. Considering we can buff the toughness, it's pretty cool. It has 15 wounds, and it does explode on a 4-up, so that's kind of fun. So if you're not familiar with explodes, when the model is destroyed, you roll a dice. If you roll equal to or above the number, so in this case a 4 or better, basically you explode and do the number of hits on surrounding units equal to the number of wounds that you have. So in this case, 15 wounds. It's Initiative 4, which again is huge for us. Initiative 4 is great because it lets us strike at the initiative of most Space Marines. It has 4 attack space, which is good. It does not have anything to get those attacks higher, though. It doesn't have impact attacks or anything like that, unfortunately. It is a 2+5+ save, which is pretty good, considering the fact that it also has Eternal Warrior 1. So Eternal Warrior will reduce the damage of incoming attacks by 1. So this thing's going to be just that much harder to take down, and a little bit more durable when it comes to it fighting. It has Implacable Advance, which means that it can volley fire with some of its weapons, though I'm not sure. I'd have to look at what the weapons are that you can Implacable Advance, but it's still going to be snap firing on that. It's got Automata Malefic. It also has the Archimandrite subgroup, so it doesn't have the Cybernetica faction trait like everything else has. It doesn't really affect it very much, but it's worth noting that it doesn't. Again, because it's I don't know, it's Automata, and so Lord of War, you could technically put an Archimandrite guy in this unit and form a unit with them, which is pretty funny to think about. It has support unit 1, so it can only ever score 1 point on objectives, and it has move through cover. Now, this has a very special rule called Unstoppable that will come up for the Kytan engine as well. So Unstoppable does a number of things, but basically at the core, it means that it can never be locked in combat. And during the movement phase, even if there's an enemy unit with an base contact with it, it can still move normally. It can move over enemy models. It can still fight in the combat phase as if it was locked in combat, by the way. It can move over and through enemy models. It can't ever embark, which I was like, why is this a rule? But this doesn't have the bulky rule anywhere. So it's not like bulky 10 or 12 or 25 or whatever. And it is automata, which also can't embark. I don't know why that. I mean, maybe that's just part of the unstoppable subtype in general. And lastly, if it is in base contact with enemy units, even though it's not locked in combat, it cannot shoot. So you could technically lock it up that way, but it could always walk away and take its shots. With that. It has a few weapons that it can utilize. Like I said, it has firing protocols 3. I think I mentioned that, but if I didn't, it has firing protocols 3. So it can shoot all 3 of its ranged weapons in the shooting phase. It has a scorpion cannon, which I believe is the one that's in its tail. And then that's a 30-inch range. It's a firepower 15. That is not a typo. It shoots 15 shots. They are strength 5, AP 4, damage 1, shred 6 plus pinning 0. So that's pretty fun. At ballistic skill, 4, that's 10 hits. Against Space Marines, that's going to be like 6 and some almost 7 wounds. That's not terrible. You're going to do something to them. And then it's pinning 0. So that's cool. It's got a despoiler cannon, which I believe is the one that's in its mouth. And that is range 18, firepower 1, but blast 5. Strength 10, AP 3, damage 3, breaching 5 plus armor bane. Somebody can correct me, but I think this is just the basically the Vindicator gun, right? That's the sorry, I don't play Astartes. Demolisher cannon. It's basically the Demolisher cannon, right? So that's pretty cool. Armor Bane on a 5-inch blast is pretty interesting because if you clip a Land Raider on a 4-up, you're just doing 3 wounds to that Land Raider, which is pretty cool. It has a twin Helmhawk cannon, so this is a template weapon. I believe these are sort of on the sides of its mouth. So this is a template weapon. It's firepower 1, of course, strength 7, AP 4, damage 1, with panic 2. So now we've got 2 different status effects that we can potentially put on our opponent with this guy, and shred 6 plus. So, and this definitely wants to get up and do some melee. So you have no problem moving this up the board. And nothing that we've talked about so far is ordnance or heavy. So you can move and shoot all day long with this guy. And then last but not least are our Hell Crusher claws, which again, 2 claws into 1 profile. Again, the Decimator is just kind of weird with this. Everything is the same, so it's your normal attacks, initiative, and strength 10 in this case. Is AP 2, so you're crushing Terminators, damage 3, so you're killing Terminators, which feels really good. Critical hits 5 plus, which is pretty fun. Now, you're only ever going to have 4 attacks, so on average, you're going to do like 1 critical hit. But yeah, getting that damage 4 hit through is going to be pretty cool. It has Armor Bane on the claws and Armor Breaker on the claws. So Armor Bane on the claws means that Strength 10 is wounding Land Raiders on a 4-up. So, you swing with your 4 attacks. Hopefully don't roll any 1s. And then, 2 of those attacks are going to penetrate the Land Raider, and you're going to roll Armor Breaker on both of those. And when you do, you will one of them will become damage 4. So you'll do 7 damage on average to a Land Raider, hopefully. Seems pretty good overall. I do think it's kind of silly that we have these big, giant, super heavy monsters that can run up and beat up a Land Raider and not kill it on average dice. But yeah, this is a great model. It's very cool. Somebody at one of the gaming stores close by to me has one, and it's just an enormous, awesome model. And I think I mentioned it costs 600 points. It is a chunk of change points wise. The last of our specialist units here, before we get into our characters, is the Kytan Demon Engine. This is, if you are familiar with the more modern Corn version that has sort of the tracks, I don't remember the name of it, but it's basically the torso of that on legs, which is pretty cool. So this is a 450 point Lord of War choice. It is similar to everything we've talked about so far. It has the Automata Malefic, and this one also has the Unstoppable rule to it. It is also an Archimandrite choice. And again, I don't think losing Cybernetica here is necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't really do anything for us. It is move 12. I don't know why this is move 12, but this is move 12. It's also weapon skill, ballistic skill 4, strength 12 on that giant axe, which is probably reasonable. It's toughness 8, 14 wounds, which is a huge number of wounds, 2 plus 5 plus save. Overall, very, very big monster unit. Has the same stats that we've talked about for all of our automata before, which is leadership 12, leadership 10, cool 12, willpower 7, intelligence 4. It has 2 weapons. It has the Gatling cannon on the arm, and then it's got that giant cleaver slaughter thing that seems like it should be really powerful, but actually really isn't nearly as powerful as it should be. In terms of its rules, it's got implacable advance, so it's going to shoot that gun during volley fire, which is pretty cool. It has fast 2 on top of being movement 12. So when you run, you're going to add 2 to your run move. So this is going to move up the table very quickly. It explodes on a 4-up, and then we'll do that 14 wounds versus of damage to anything in range. It's a support unit 1, so it's not really there to hold objectives, and it's got move through cover, as we've talked about before. All right, so weapons for this guy. The Kytan, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Gatling cannon, 36 inch range, 12 shots, strength 6, AP 4, pinning, damage 1, pinning 1, shred 6 plus. So again, one more way that Mechanicum can sort of apply status effects, which is sort of our thing to this to enemies. If we're doing the maths on the hits, we're going to hit 8 times on average. Against Space Marines, we're going to do, roughly, let's see, we'll probably wound on a 2 plus. So we're going to do 5 or 6 wounds through. So, we may kill a tactical Marine or 2 with this guy. But mainly it's there for that pinning opportunity, and that cleaver of slaughter hits us at -2 initiative, which is very unfortunate. Putting us down to initiative 2. Womp womp. So we're definitely getting punched first with this unless we pin them on the way in. But it is AP2 damage 2, so we are making 4 attacks at AP2 damage 2. This will kill Terminators. Shred 4 plus is fine. That's a huge weapon at strength 12 that's just really not doing anything against anybody. Like, if you roll perfectly, you will kill 4 Terminators. I don't know. It's not having what's it called? Reaping blow on this, and not having auto instant death anymore. I don't know. For 450 points, you're gonna kill 4 Terminators a turn max. It's fine. It looks great. The model is freaking incredible. But I don't know. Anyway. But yeah, let's get into some of the really fun things. So there are 2 special characters. These are the only special characters, to my knowledge, that are available to Mechanicum at all. And we get 2 of them in this book, and they're both for the Dark Mech. So we got Archmagos Scoria, as a reference, because I'm a geologist in real life. Scoria is a volcanic rock that is formed from mafic lava that has a lot of volatiles in it, and so it has a lot of holes and bubbles in it. And I don't know if this is intentional, But the place that we usually test our rovers, at least where NASA does, if you're on my side of the pond, is a place called Haleakala in Hawaii, which is a Mars analogous Scoria crater. It's caldera at the top of the island of Maui. So it's very dry, it's very arid, but the dominant rock type up there is scoria. And I'm not sure if they did that on purpose, but it's pretty cool if they did. So that's neither here nor there. This guy's stat line, wow, is unbelievable. The model, by the way, just take a moment to appreciate that thing. That's definitely a we are going to paint you in subassembly model. And this is a resin model, guys. So yeah, it looks gorgeous. It just seems like a nightmare to possibly paint. But yeah, so this guy is move 9, weapon skill, ballistic skill 6. Wow. Keep in mind that if we put them in a unit, and they are Archimandrite, so we can put them in any unit. If we put them in a unit with anything, and then give that unit overcharge reactors, or do we have the Malefic type? We do not have Malefic, so we can't put them with Malefic stuff. So we'd have to do overcharge reactors in a unit of or no, we could do any of our cybertheurgic powers, because we could put them with like Thalax or Ursarox or anything like that. So we could get this guy up to a weapon skill, ballistic skill 7, or initiative 6, or strength 7, toughness 8. It would be very easy to buff them. So weapon skill, ballistic skill 6, strength 6, toughness 7, wounds 9. Again, pretty solid here on our wounds. Initiative 5 is monstrous for Mechanicum. I know for other factions you're like, oh, whatever. Initiative 5 is nothing. We don't have anything that's this high ever. So being able to hit at the speed of like a Praetor is kind of crazy. 5 attacks, which is pretty good. With 10s across the board. So leadership, willpower, cool, intelligence, all 10s across the board. I don't think this has a cyber familiar, so you are locked into that 10, strangely. Your defensive stats are 2 plus 4 plus 5 plus, so 2 up save, 4 up invuln, 5 up feel no pain, with Eternal Warrior 1. This guy is not going to die anytime soon. He has Fear 2, so that'll kind of broadcast across the board, and impact attacks. So when you make your charge, you're going to do 6 attacks on the charge, which is pretty cool. He's got a whole host of rules that we'll go through. So we talked about Feel No Pain and Eternal Warrior. He's got Battlesmith 4, which is not remarkable for an Archmagos. It's pretty much our standard. Fear 2, impact attacks. It's got this Theurgica Maximus, which is the Archimandrite special ability. Basically allows them to do 2 cybertheurgic powers each turn, which is a pretty cool ability to have. And it's got Archmagos of the Zanin Dominion, which is just a special rule that gives Scoria overcharge reactors, cogitator purge, scrap code infection. So they'll have those 3 cybertheurgic rites. Now, what is important about these is that cogitator purge and scrap code infection are both offensive uses of their abilities. So yeah, just be aware that this guy's kind of tooled out to be punchy more than anything. Quick pause. He has the Walker subtype. I just realized that. I don't think he can join a unit with the Walker subtype. I have the rule book with me right now. I'm pretty sure that means he can't join a unit, which is kind of crappy. So I take back what I said about overcharge reactors and stuff. You wouldn't be able to. Oh, well, he's got the Walker subtype, so you could put it on him because you can overcharge reactors in the Walker. Interesting. But yeah, he's for weapons. He's got Scorian Talons, which are all of your normal stats except their AP2 damage 2 with critical hit 6+, which seems pretty good. This guy's going to be an absolute bear in a challenge because he does have this champion subtype, and with 9 wounds, 2 up, 4 up, 5 up save with Eternal Warrior 1. Um, if you've put him against the Primarch, I'd be really curious. Like I feel like he's gonna beat up Primarchs. Primarchs are only like 6 wounds. And yeah, I think this guy can go toe to toe with some Primarchs, especially because you can get him up to weapon skill, ballistic skill 7. Um, yeah, if you've done it, let me know. But I think anyway. So yeah, I think this guy could probably do it. He's also got the Voidian Scepter, which is what you're going to use if you go fight a vehicle. It's -1 to the initiative, -2 to the attacks characteristic. Um, +3 to your strength, which gets him to strength 9. Um, AP2 damage 2, but it's got the shock ability, and that shock is going to be pinning, suppress, stun. So it's basically like a fancy version of the corpuscent stave that the normal Archmagos can take, which does that as well. So if you roll that 5 or 6 to hit, you apply all the statuses to a vehicle on top of each other. He also has twin Archaeotech pistols, which you would think would do something special, but really doesn't. Really doesn't do anything special. So twin phase plasma fusils do a lot. Like you get an extra breaching, so it goes from breaching 4+ to 5+. Sorry, breaching 5+ to 4+, and I think you get an extra rate of fire on it. I'm going to check just because I don't want to lie to you. Yeah, so twin phase plasma fusils get an extra firepower and go from breaching 5+ to breaching 4+. So twin Archaeotech pistols you'd think would do the same. They do not. You get an extra firepower, and that's it. The breaching is the same, still breaching 3+, still damage 2, still AP4. They're good, but not amazing on that. But it is cool, and I would love to be able to have just a regular Archmagos with like 2 pistols running around, like some gunslinger. He also has a photon thruster, which is a photon weapon that anybody can have. So I didn't really put the stats up here because it's not anything special. But it is decent. It's range 24, firepower 2. It's going to be range strength 8. It's got the armor bane, armor breaker. It's basically like a lighter version of the dark fire cannons that can be out there. It's fine. It's totally okay. Yeah, he's a tanky guy. And like I said, if you are a dark mech aficionado and you've put him up against a Primarch in a challenge, I want to know how that went, because I feel like he can take, and maybe not the biggest baddest of the Primarchs, but he could probably take a lot of the mid-range Primarchs, and at least give them a run for their money, which is kind of fun. And the last character we have is, oh my God, Archmagos Draykavac. So this model comes with both an on-foot version and then this awesome abeyant that's up here. There are so many rules. There's no way to write them all. So we're gonna talk about them. I'll walk through them for you. I'm so sorry. I should have said previously. The Archmagos Scoria is a high command option and costs 410 points. So that is Archmagos Scoria. So Archmagos Draykavac is a high command, and costs 200 points base. And if you want to put him on an abeyant, he is plus 20 points. So 220 points for the abeyant version. He is not bad across the board. Basic Archmagos type stat line: movement 6, weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 6, strength 6, toughness 6, though toughness 7 on the abeyant, 6 wounds, initiative 4, initiative 3 on the abeyant, attacks 4. Leadership cool and all that stuff is 10, 9, 9, 12 across the board. He is intelligence 12. He is a smart boy. And then if you put him on the abeyant, he goes to cool 10 as well. So pretty great all across the board. He's got his 2+, 4+ save. Overall, we'll go through the war gear in just a minute. Base model has Feel No Pain 5 up, Comptroller 2, Battlesmith 4, Master of Machines. So all the things that we had previously. Sorry, I was just realizing that because the previous guy doesn't, I mean, he can't join anyway, but because he didn't have Master of Machines, he couldn't join Automata. Firing Protocols 2, because you can get 2 guns on this guy. The fancy things are the Liquefactor Onslaught Gambit and the Legacy of Cunning, which we will talk about in just a few minutes. So those are the base stats. And then, of course, the Abeyant version has the Command Throne ability, which basically means that if you use a reaction within, well, anywhere on the board, you can roll a dice and getting bonuses for if you can like see him and if you're close to him and all that stuff. You can try to not have to spend a reaction point on that. He is a traitor, an Archimandrite, a Cybertheurgist, and Heterodox, so he counts for that Heterodox ability. He's got Frag Grenades, Paragon Blade. Paragon Blades are great on Archmagos. A Graviton Gun, Cortex Controller, so you can join some automata and let them react, and a Machinator Array, which lets him do his Battlesmith twice per turn. Paragon Blade is basic weapon type, but we'll walk through it real quick because I think it's important to note that we can take these, and you probably should be taking them. I'm working on once the Scutari box comes out, I'm going to make a new Archmagos with the bladed hand, and that's going to be my Paragon Blade because it looks great as a Power Fist. But Paragon Blade is just so much better. So that hits an initiative with your attacks modifier. So in this case, we're talking 4 attacks. Strength modifier is going to be +1, so he'll be strength 7. With AP2, so killing everything minus invulns, damage 1, but more importantly, critical hits 6+. And so Paragon Blades, usually if you are in a gambit, which we'll talk about special gambit for this guy, so usually with your gambit, you're going to want to go with like Fury of Blows on here to get those extra D3 attacks, and just kind of hope that you get some 6s for damage too. Although, never mind, hang on, no, you probably don't because you don't get the bonus. Scratch that. Probably Finishing Blow is probably the better way to go because then you go up to damage 3 on your attacks. I'm sorry, I'm lying to you guys. Don't listen to me. I don't know how to play this game. All right. And then for no additional points, you can take a Graviton Gun, which will give him 2 Graviton Guns, a Rotor Cannon, a Conversion Beamer, or a Melt-A-Gun. I'm probably going to give him, I mean, if I run him, I won't, but if I did, I'd probably give him 2 Graviton Guns, to be honest. But I can see an argument to be made for like a Graviton Gun, Melt-A-Gun, because you're probably going to want him sort of up in the middle of things. Right now, Conversion Beamers are just hot garbage, so I would never give him a Conversion Beamer. And Rotor Cannons probably aren't the way to go. Although I do think that they have pinning, so you could go with, I think Graviton Guns have pinning too, though. We'll find out. So interesting. I'm noticing that there is no rotor cannon in our book. It's just a twin rotor cannon. So rotor cannons are suppressive. Graviton guns are pinning. So yeah, you could go rotor cannon, graviton gun, and try and hope that you get a status effect on there. I think that would probably be a reasonable way to run him. All right, so Archmagos Draykavac has 2 special rules that are worth noting. Liquefactor Onslaught Gambit is a special gambit that he can take. And what you do is you roll 2 dice and take the lowest of the 2, so discard the highest, for your focus step, which is never a good thing to do, but whatever, it's going to pop up sometimes. And then in the strike step, before anybody makes a shooting attack, he gets to make a shot with his Liquefactor gun, just like a Myrmidox guy can do. But this gun is worse than the twin phase plasma fusel. So it's a range 1 gun with a firepower 3. So you get 3 shots. Your ballistic skill 6, so you could crit hit on one of these. Has range strength of 2, which seems bad. AP of 6, which also seems very bad. Damage 1. It does have phage, toughness, and strength, which is kind of cute. Poison 2+, and breaching 4+. So you take your shots. You take your 3 shots. Hopefully you roll a 6 on one of them. That gets cute, because then it goes to damage 2 with breaching and poisoned. But you take your 3 shots. You're probably going to hit three times because you're missing on ones, right? And then you're going to roll a wound against most people. You're going to be wounding on two. So let's say between the shooting attacks and the damage attacks, you get two through. One may be breaching, so you do a damage to the person that you're fighting, which is good. But more importantly, their toughness and strength are reduced by one permanently, which is kind of cute. Is it good? No. Is it like game breaking? Absolutely not. But it's kind of fun to be able to do. I don't know that I would. I mean, maybe during the first round of combat, you might want to do it just to lower their toughness and strength, and then just let it go for the rest of the round. If you're fighting with somebody who's using their base strength, so let's say you're fighting somebody with basically like a Paragon blade, I would do this. And I would do this because taking their Paragon Blade from Strength 5, Stardust being like Strength 4 plus 1, to Strength 4 means that your Toughness 7 on the Abeyant becomes really important. So yeah, it's kind of cute. I like it. I like the idea of him just like being like, I challenge you, and then just shoot you in the face, is cute. The other rule that he has is the Legacy of Cunning, and this is a lot of words, but basically, if he's not in melee, he can run away. So he gets negatives to this. Technically, they're pluses, but he gets modifiers to this if he's routed or his tactical statuses, or if there are enemies within 12 inches. He's basically a coward. And if you roll properly, you get to remove him from the board, and he does not count as being killed, which is just fun and thematic and cute. And we don't have enough cowards in this game, and so yeah, I like that rule, and it's kind of fun. So with that said, let's talk about some thoughts on the Dark Mechanicum as I get my first sort of foray in here. And if I got anything wrong, please let me know. If you have any experience or any tips and tricks with them, please share them in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like and share it and subscribe and pray to the ominous eye and do all the things, because that helps our algorithm. But yeah, so Dark Mechanicum thoughts from a lore modeling theme perspective. I love this. I love this side of this. It's not what I want because I play traders with my Space Marines in 40K, so I don't want to go this route in Horus Heresy. But it's great. The models are great. If you've seen so in the background right now, we've got the Legionis Imperialis models. There are some gorgeous sculpts for that game. A number of those will probably be coming over to Horus Heresy in plastic at some point. So very excited for that. They all look sort of Dark Mechanicum, grimdarky type feel. If you've read the Horus Heresy books, they talk a lot about how sort of creepy and weird the demon engines are. You could do anything. Like if you wanted to run blood slaughters and didn't want to use the resin models, I would just get the venom crawlers. I think that they're probably reasonable. You can substitute the cannons and put harpoons on the end, and bam, you've got yourself some blood slaughters, and they're not particularly hard to get models. Yeah, I think that you can do whatever you want. Just run through your kit bits box, have fun converting, like just go crazy. You can do anything you want. And that's really important because a lot of these models are locked behind resin. And we just don't, it's really hard to get access to them, and some of them are just prohibitively expensive. Would I run a Decimator or a brass scorpion if I could? Absolutely. Those models are outstanding. I think the brass scorpion really to this day fits the Mechanicum vibe that the other models have. You could easily slot one of those into your army and it's going to look great alongside everything else. They're just so expensive to be able to run reasonably and have access to. So love the lore, love the modeling, love the theme. By all means, build Dark Mechanicum and have some fun with it. There are also some amazing opportunities for narrative campaigns against Mechanicum. As a loyalist Mechanicum player, I would very readily convert an a Crusader, which is sort of our like Malaga unit, so that I could play against someone who was Dark Mechanicum and do a whole campaign against them and tell stories and have themes like that. That would be really fun. And like, have them blasting off, scrap code at me and things like that. I would love that. It would be a really fun way to play. I will say that like mechanically, from just the outside looking in, there's just limited synergies. There's not so we can't take Dark Mechanicum Ursarax or Castellax or anything like that. Like we used to in second edition, there used to be an option to basically make your Castellax also sort of basically quote unquote upgrade them, so that they would be corrupted. And you can't do that anymore, which kind of feels weird, that you're just running vanilla freaking Castellax with their Ugg boots and their blonde hair, bleached blonde hair, and their pumpkin spice lattes, hanging out next to the super goth decimators. But sure, if that's the way it's going to work, that's the way it's going to work. So yeah, there just isn't a lot of synergy with the dark mech stuff unless you're specifically running the units we talked about today. If you wanted to run a dark mech army and didn't want to use the Forge World stuff and just wanted to use the plastics, your army mechanically would function exactly like my loyalist army, which is weird, right? Like, can we acknowledge that that's kind of weird? And I will say though that there are synergies with the demons, and there are synergies with Traitor Marines that are out there. And so if you want to ally those units in, I could see some appeal to that, especially if you want to run some like converted demons in your army as sort of like Vastor-esque guys that are kind of running in and hanging out with you. Yeah, it would be so cool, and maybe we will get it. It would be so cool to have access to Dark Mechanicum Scutari or Ursarax, etc. So again, in the Cybernetica book, they specifically talk about Dark Mechanicum Scutari, sort of like moving more like zombies and emitting scrap code and sort of moving jerkily. They have Ursarax that are corrupted as well. I saw somebody do Ursarax where they like had the lenses smashed in their helmets and like just skulls in there. Yeah, like you could have a lot of fun with those models, like Ursarax, where your Ursarax claws are like bursting out, and there's like you're putting possessed marine bits in there, so that there's like flesh like shooting out of the end of the claws and forming like organic claws there. Like you could have a lot of fun with that stuff. And they're just, I mean, modeling wise, that's great. Please, by all means, tell that story. Do those conversions. I'd love to see them. But from a gameplay perspective, they're just vanilla Ursarax with their pumpkin spice lattes. Like I just don't know. Hopefully at some point we will get another Liber that covers sort of the dark mech stuff in a greater capacity, and allows those rules to be there, because I think that there's a lot of potential, and they just kind of like they did something and kind of like put it there to allow us to see it, and then that was it, and there's no real thought beyond that. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I would love to hear yours if you do play Dark Mech or you want to play Dark Mech. I know that our local Dark Mech person kind of painted their army, and then when third edition came out, they were like totally just absolutely done with the way Mechanicum was handled, and they sold all their stuff. So yeah, it's if you've done it, let me know. I'd love to hear it. I am unfortunately though a loyalist Mechanicum adept, and now I have to go make some prayers to the Omnissiah and take a shower and wash all this filth off me, because I feel dirty just talking about all this stuff. Thanks for hanging out, and I will catch you guys in our next video.